welcome to R.K Medicos once again. In this section we are going to discuss about the neurophysiology. In the neurophysiology we are going to discuss about the different types of receptors in this section, and what are the receptors and the types of receptors, where they are present and the location, how fast they are working, and how their action is performed in our body, where they are located in the skin or the below the skin or in the different parts of our inside or the internal organs where they are located. So let's start this topic with the huge demand of this topic. In the neurophysiology we are going to see, and this topic is most important for understanding how the organ system is working in our body, so you have to concentrate on this topic. In the neurophysiology we are going to see mainly several parts, and part wise we are going to study everything. The first one is, suppose that any person is sitting in front of you and there is any stimuli is carried on their skin. Suppose that here is on my hand and I'm going to prick the pin on my receptors of the skin, where some receptors are located here. These receptors are for the basically pain receptors. When you're going to pricking, the pin or the pain receptors are activated. Basically these are carry the information from these receptors, what are they present in our skin, and they sending impulses in the whole hand and reaching to the spinal cord first, and these all happen due to the sensory fibers. Sensory fibers are the fibers which carry information from the receptors, and these are the basically information is carried out, and then they are sending information to the spinal cord, and after in the spinal cord this information are get relayed, or we can say like this processed maybe at the spinal cord level, and sometimes it also travel to the upper section before the spinal cord. Suppose that this is in the thorax level, they are reaching up to the cervical and then reaching into the brain or the higher center in the central nervous system. So these all are how the information is moving in this way, and then a spinal cord and then in our brain. This is called as sensory impulses. This is called as afferent or efferent impulses. So these are the impulses which transmitting to our brain. After that, from the brain is processing this information, or we can say like this, the brain is calculating what is happening there and this sending the impulses. In advantage of this, what the information is going inside our brain through the hand, these receptors or these neural activities happen, the neural transports are occur, and then these impulses from our brain again they sending counter action of these impulses. Suppose that their information is going for what is doing here, these impulses are doing by the brain is transferring to our hand, and let me know about that what is happening here. The brain is thinking about it and processing it, what is going on, and they suppose that when we prick the pin, it will be the pain is happened. Suppose that the patient is on the hand is putting on the cold substances, it will feel very cold, or the hot substance, it will be the very hot. So it will depends on the what are the stimuli, or what are the stimuli the person gets in the touch of that stimuli, and what the receptors are activated depends on the stimuli, what are the stimuli is located in our environment. So we are going to start off this topic, that is sensory receptor and neurophysiology. We can see here the neurophysiology. We are going to see about the sensory physiology, motor physiology, and the higher mental function. Higher mental function is basically located in our cerebral hemisphere. What are the different location, what are the different regions where they control the different parts of our body or the different regions of our body. So these are the higher centers, and they are related with the different higher consciousness level functions or the higher functioning activities. In the sensory physiology you are going to see how the function is transmitted, or how the any information or the impulses get transmitted from our external environment to the brain. And in the motor physiology you are going to discuss how the brain is performing against these sensory impulses, they are working, how the work is performed by the brain and transmitting the information from brain to the sensory area where the receptors are located. That one is motor physiology. So we are going to start here about the sensory physiology first, and we can see in the sensory physiology they are involves what type of fibers, you know now, the afferent fibers. Afferent fibers is also called as sensory fibers. It is also called as input fibers because they carry the information and going to the brain, they inputting something inside our brain. So it is the input fibers and the information. These fibers are taking information in our receptors, from the receptors and going to our brain, and after they reaching to the brain level, they're moving upside. That's why they are called as ascending information transmission pathway, and these are called as ascending track or the ascending information transmission. Suppose that when there is any information, or suppose that there is any pin pricking in our abdominal region or in the thigh region, these information are also going to be transferred from that area to the spinal cord, and the spinal cord carry this information to the higher center at the brain level. So it will be also transferred like this, and they're moving upward. So it will be like ascending manner, it moving up. That's why they are called as ascending tracks. Track, what is mean? Already told you in the previous section in physiology, in pharmacology about it. But now I am going to tell you, track are the composition or the collection of axonal part of our neurons in the central nervous system. We can say, suppose that this is the any neuron, so this is what cell body, and this is axon. The collection of axon, a lot of axon are going to be combined together, and these axons are forming something. These axons are forming a track. Suppose that I am going to highlight here. These tracks are like this. So these are called as track. Track is the collection of what? Collection of axons of the neuron in the central nervous system basically, and they're transmitting the information upward. When they're going to information taking from our lower part of the body to the upward, so it will be the called as ascending track. When the information is processed, and then brain is going to sending these impulses to the down in our body, so these impulses are taken from the brain to the spinal cord, and later on they are transferring to our hand or the thighs or the lower limbs, upper limbs, in the different parts. So they are called as descending track basically. So what is ascending track? Ascending track is the track basically they carry information in the upward direction in the spinal cord and then brain, and descending track is carry impulses from after the brain processing these information, they transferring the information from the brain to the spinal cord and later on in the different parts of our body basically. In next section we can see here what are the senses basically representing. Senses is representing in the sensory physiology. There is two types of senses already discussed in the neuroanatomy. You can go and watch there what are the general senses and special senses. The general senses are the senses basically they're based on the receptor or their location. We can see here on the basis of receptor location. Receptor is basically present where? On the skin, and they are called as somatic senses because they are located outside of our bodies. That's why they are called as somatic senses. And what are the main functioning area of this skin, and what are the somatic sensation is happening here? There is a touch. Any person can touch you, then you can feel from the skin in the superficial part. That's why there is the somatic region, and from the outside there is a pain. When there is any pain or the prickles or the anything is happened. Next one is temperature. You can also feel from the outside of the somatic sense. These all are the receptor based. They are located on the skin. These are receptors, and they are working in this way. Hope you will be understand the general senses. The general senses are basically somatic senses that are present on our superficial part of our body and the outer appearance of our body. These are the somatic senses. What happened in the special senses? You know, special senses are for the special organs. And special organs, what you know very well. Special senses are the receptor location basically in the skull or the central nervous system. And what are the special senses? You know, already I told you now. The special senses in the special organs, that is the vision, hearing, olfaction, taste and balancing. These are the 5 main functions of the special sensation is done by the special senses receptors, where they are located in the central nervous system, and where the receptors are located for the touch, temperature and pain. They are located on the skin. You know now very well. Now we are going to see about the general senses. Where the general senses is happened already. Now you see the touch, temperature and pain are the receptors. They are located on the skin, and it happens in the general senses. So we are going to see here general senses. 4 main control points of the general senses is happening here. Suppose that the any receptors is located where? In the general senses basically. In the general senses the receptors are located on the skin. It is true. They are located on the skin. After that they carry impulses, and they transferring the information. They moving in our hand, and then moving in our arm, and then moving into they're reaching up to the level of a spinal cord basically. These all the receptor transmission of impulses from our hand to the spinal cord. These are called as first order neuron. What does it mean, first order neuron? First order neuron means they carry information from the receptor first time and the sending to the spinal cord. That one is first order receptor, or first order neuron. We can see here the skin, And on the skin, what is located? Receptors are located on the skin. After that, these impulses are transmitted where? In the spinal cord. Through what? Through a neuron and through the nerve fibers. That nerve fiber is called as first order nerve fiber, first order neuron. It is true. Hope you will be understand this. And in the spinal cord, I already told you, when the sensory impulses are transmitted inside the spinal cord, when they are moving up, they are sensory, because that's why they are moving towards the central nervous system. It means in the central nervous system is also part of a spinal cord, but the some reflexes are also generated from the spinal cord. But we are talking here about the general senses in a common way. So these impulses are going to the spinal cord, first order neuron. After, in the spinal cord, they are moving upward. In the spinal cord, they are moving upward, in the, suppose that in the lumbar region, in the thorax region, then in the cervical region, and then they reaches. So their movement in upward is called as tracks. And track, already I told you, they are the collection of axons of our neuron. The collection of cell body in the central nervous system is nuclei, and collection of axon in the central nervous system is tract, and the tracks are present through which these impulses are carried upward, and they reaching at the level of our thalamus inside the brain. And the thalamus, from the spinal cord to thalamus, these impulses are transmitted with a special type of nerve fiber. That one is called as second order neuron. And after the thalamus, these impulses are transmitted to our cerebral cortex or the sensory cortex. In the cerebral cortex, different types of cortexes are present. Sensory cortex, motor cortex, or visual cortex, or the Broca's cortex. There different types of cortex are present. So we are going to discuss here basically sensory physiology or the general senses in the sensory receptors or the sensory everything. That's why we are talking here sensory cortex inside our brain. We are going to see about the pictures, but for now you have to understand they are carrying impulses from the skin. Receptors are moving inside our spinal cord, the first order neuron. After, in the spinal cord, they are moving up till the thalamus, that the second order neuron, and the thalamus to the sensory cortex, that the third order neuron. So these are the sequence of movement of the impulses till the cortex of our brain or the brain cortex. So there are three orders of neuron are working here in the 4 steps, and the thalamus is acting as a relay station. You have to memorize it, that's all. Nothing worry about it what is happening here. Just memorize there is a first order, second order, third order neurons are present, and there is a skin. They are transmitted. The receptors are located always on the skin. In the general senses, in the special senses, they are located inside our brain or skull. What are the receptor types basically? Now we have discussed only the receptors are located on the skin, but now we are going to discuss about what are the different types of receptor. So we can see here there are the 7 different types of receptor. First one is mechanoreceptors. They are basically related with the mechanical activity. Mechanical activity is done by the touch. So it is the touch receptor is the mechanical one. They are located on the skin. Next one is nociceptor. Noci means basically pain or the receptors. They are the pain receptors. Thermo, they are the temperature. Thermo means temperature, thermal. Thermoreceptors, they are the temperature regulating. Proprio means basically these receptors are located in our joint region, a specific joint region. So their movement of the joints are regulated through these receptors. That the proprioception is responding when the joint position changes, or the joint position senses, or the joint any type of changes in our joints is happening. Or the exteroreceptor, what are the receptor located outside? That is exteroreceptor. What is the enteroreceptors? The receptors are located internally in the internal structures of our body. These receptors are called as enteroreceptors. Or they are responsible for the internal stimuli, and this one is responsible for the external stimuli. And external stimuli is basically mechanoreceptors. How? The external receptor is basically they are located outside our body. And what are the receptors we discuss now? They are present outside the body. That is what? Mechanoreceptor. That is touch. Next one we are going to see the internal stimuli, in which internal stimuli basically osmoreceptors are regulating our water or fluid activities, or the osmoreceptor we are going to also see in later stage what they are regulating. There is a teloreceptors. They are measuring the distance or the distance of them, how the patient how far from you. They are measuring by the teloreceptors. Teloreceptors, these are the photoreceptors basically, and their stimuli is detected by the distant object is detected by these receptors. So these are about the types of receptor. You have to know little about them also. It's important. Now we are going to see what are the properties of receptor here, how the how the receptors are working, and what are the main properties of the receptors. It means the receptors are going to acting somewhere in our body. Suppose that the receptors are located on the skin. How many receptors are located in this area? Suppose that there is a 1 centimeter area. How many receptors are located? They define the receptors intensity, where they are located and how many intensity of it. They are 5, 10 in 1 centimeter, or the how the reaction is performed, how fast is it, or the different types of modality functions, or the where they are located in the different area of our body. These all regulating the properties of the receptors. We can see here the properties of the receptors is memorizes by a trick, that is M lead, or we can memorize like the M lead. That is the M stands for modality, L stands for their location, I stands for their intensity, and D stands for their duration. Intensity, duration, intensity, location, and modality. So these are the 4 main types of the properties of receptor. Through these properties, the any receptors are acting in our body. Suppose that we can see here modality. Modality is basically they're detecting the stimuli types. What are the type of stimuli is present outside or the inside of our body? They are the external, internal, they are the touch receptor, pain receptor. The stimuli is depending on the modality of the different of receptors. Suppose that the nociceptors, they are regulating pain activity. That these are regulating pain activity, they are the pain stimuli regulating. So we have to different types of stimuli for the different types of receptors are also present for them. These are the modality function of the receptor. Next one is location, where these receptors are located. In the general senses, they are located on the skin. We can see here most of the sensory receptors are located in the skin. Most of them are located in the skin. Receptive field, what is it? The area where the receptors are first time recepting this stimuli, the responses area of any receptor. Suppose that this area there is any receptors are located, and what is the area where these receptors are showing their response? This is the receptive field of that receptor. We can say like this. Suppose that here is the region. You can see here is the region the receptors are located, and what happened, suppose that this is the whole area the receptor is covering. It means this is called as the field, area field of these receptors, or the receptive field. Next point we are going to see the receptor density high and the receptor density low. Density means what? Their location, how many in the number. We can see, suppose that the receptor density is high or low, it can be detected by the several tested in our general life, basically in the any patient. So we can see here receptor density low. How we can detect the patient is having low density of receptors are present in that area. There is a low number of these receptors are present in that area. This all can be regulated by the different types of testing, and we can see here in the receptor density, low of receptor density, we can see here the 2-point discrimination distance is far. It means 2-point discrimination is something like this. There is a 2-point is present in the 2-point discrimination is a round structuring substance. There we are going to pricking like this on our skin. When the patient feel any point of impulses, what we are going to pricking the surface of our skin on the receptors of that person, they feeling more far from it. It means the receptor density will be very low. When the receptor density will be higher, the patient will feel the distance between these 2 points will be very short. They can't feel it. So it will be the 2-point discrimination is showing the receptor density will be very higher, because their area of that receptive field will be very low, and it means the receptive field will be very high. So it can be detected by the 2-point discrimination test, and where the basically higher is can be testing, higher density will be testing in the lips region, in the fingertips region, and the low density will be pricking by the trunk region or the hip region. So you have to memorize it. 2-point discrimination test, where we are going to done this test. It's important to know in our physiology section. Next point we are going to see intensity. In the intensity section, the receptors increases, the frequency of action potential is also increases. When the higher number of receptors are present in that area, there is a more receptive function will be happen. Suppose that there is a more receptors are present, it means there is any single stimuli is taken up by these receptors, they take very fast action potential, or the very fast action potential transmitted in that area, or there is it is showing the intensity of the stimuli of that area and the receptors location in that area. The less intense stimuli is showing the less frequency of action potential. When there is any, suppose that there is any stimuli we giving to the receptor is very low, it means the receptor is present on the skin. Suppose that the touch receptor, we are going very smooth touch, these stimuli are very less, so it will transferring the information or the action potential very less in frequency. Suppose that we are going to touch in a very crude way, or it means this stimuli we are giving to the receptors are very intense amount of stimuli for their transmission, though in that way or in this way these impulses are very faster, these action potential are very faster when we are going to touch in a crude way, because these stimuli are giving to the receptor in a threshold, they are above the threshold potential. But when we are giving a very low amount of these stimuli, they are not susceptible for these action potential, are very slow moving, and it will be may it not going to be rich in our spinal cord, or then may not transferring to the different parts of our spinal cord or the brain region. So the duration is also matter in the receptor properties. The time interval between the start and the stop of the receptor activity. How many times these receptors are working. The starting and stopping activity is also depending on the receptors activity. So these are the four main properties of our receptors. M-lead, we have to memorize modality, intensity, duration and intensity. Next we are going to see about the detail about the touch receptor. Touch receptor is very important, so we are going to discuss in detail about it. Receptors are 4 in number, that is Business corpuscles, Merkel cells, Pacinian corpuscles and Raffinage endings. These are the 4 types of the touch receptors, and out of these 4, the 2 are present on the superficial surface and 2 are present deeply. So what are the 2 types of them touch receptors which are present superficial in location, and what are the 2 which are present deep in location? The Meissner's and Merkel cells. The Meissner's and Merkel's are basically present on the superficially of our superficial surface of our skin. So these are the superficial in location, and Pacinian and Raffinage are located in the deep locations of our skin, or the deep locations of our or top part or the uppermost part of our skin. So we can say that what are the superficial receptors of touch? There is a Pacinian and Merkel's and Meissner's corpuscles. And what are the deep one? Deep one are the Pacinian and Raffinage corpuscles. We have to memorize it. Next one we are going to see where these Meissner's corpuscles are basically located in our body, and what are the main functions of these Meissner's corpuscles is it. The Meissner's corpuscles are basically located superficially, it is true, already we know. These are the most abundant receptor in our body. This is the most abundant receptors, among them touch receptors, and their location is basically in the lips and the fingertips. They are in the fingertips, the most highly sensitive part of our body, and the lips is also most highly sensitive part of our body. You know, hope you know, the lips is highly sensitive area. And they are also in the non-hairy skins, where the hairs are not present in our skin. There is a non-hairy skins area, is also called as glabrous skin. The glabrous skin, it means simple, where the hair is not present in any part of our body. They are called as glabrous skin or the glabrous area of our body. So the glabrous skin is a non-hairy skin or the glabrous skin where these receptors are located. So now you tell me, the Meissner's receptors are located where? In the fingertips, lips and the non-hairy skins or the glabrous skin. Next, what is the function is it? Function of it is fine touch and vibration. Vibration with low frequency. When there any vibration with very low frequency, it will be counted as a senses by the Meissner's corpuscles or the Meninges corpuscles touch receptors. Now we are going to see Merkel cells. This is also superficial, already told you. This is the most sensitive to the edges and corners. They are the highly sensitive for the any edges surface or the corner surface. When we are going to touch the any edge surface or the corners, these are highly sensitive. These receptors are defining them. Suppose that the patient is basically in the blind patient, those who are reading with a special type of system, and that is called as Braille system or the Braille script. Hope you know about it. The Braille script is like the rough surface on the book or the papers. These are the rough papers through on which some pictures are drawing through this symbolic representation, and this rough structure can be felt by our fingers. So these are the edges of these rough structures which can be felt by the blind peoples, and that can be identified by them. And in this, what receptors are basically working here? Merkel cells. The Merkel cells is helpful to the blind peoples for their study, for their learning processes in the Braille script system. Now we are going to see Pacinian. Pacinian means simple, pressure. Pacinian means basically deep. They are the deeply situated or the deep receptors. They detecting the vibration. And what type of vibration? Low vibration is detected by the Meninges or Meninges corpuscles. We can see here the Meninges corpuscles are the detecting low vibration, low frequency vibration. High vibration frequency is done by the, we can see here, Pacinian corpuscles. Now we are going to see Ruffini's ending. This is also a type of touch receptors, and this is situated deeply or superficially? Deeply. And they are mostly they are useful in the orthopedics. Orthopedic is basically related with the bone. It means we are going to see basically they are situated most of their amount of these receptors in the joint regions. So there is a orthopedic doctors are going to check our joint or the many different parts of the bone or the bone functioning activities. So they are going to check these receptors activity, how they work or working or not, or maybe useful working or not, abnormal actions. So they are basically present in the joint capsule receptors, and they are sensing the pressure also, pressure sensation. These first order neurons for the touch receptors is A beta receptors. What is A beta fibers? We discuss later. For now, there are the several divisions of the A, alpha, beta, gamma, and these are the types of these fibers. So for now, you have to memorize all the first order neurons of the touch receptors. What are the touch receptors? For their first neurons, they carry information and they're reaching to the spinal cord. They all are the A beta. Now we're going to see the pain receptors. The pain receptor is the next type, because in the general senses we have to discuss three receptors: the touch receptor, pain receptor, and temperature receptor. The first we discussed already. Here is the which one? That is the touch receptor. Now we're going to discuss pain receptor. The pain receptor free nerve endings, they are gets transfer their impulses by a special type of fibers, A delta and C fibers. What are these fibers? A delta, B delta, C delta. So these are the fibers basically classified on the basis of their myelination. How fast they work, how fast they transfer the impulses. Suppose that from here, from our hand, there is a one wire is reaching to our spinal cord, and these are the four types of wire. Wire A is transferring the impulses 2 meters per second. Wire 3 is working as a 4 meters per second. Wire 4 is working as a 8 meters per second. It means which one is faster? Of course 4-1, because 4-1 is more faster. It means they are more myelinated, because more myelination, more faster working. The myelination is the basic criteria of them. Next one, there is many things about their classification, but now we are going to discuss only A delta fibers and C fibers. C fibers are basically unmyelinated, so they are slow. They are transferring their impulses very slow. Now we are going to see A delta fibers and C fibers. A delta fibers are myelinated. I already told you A1 is myelinated and the C1 is unmyelinated. So they are work very slow. Yeah, they are working for the slow pain. They are working for the fast pain because they are myelinated. The myelination is occurred, it means leads to the fast impulses transmission. And they are the fast. It means they are the sharp. They are the pricking. They are the acute pain. These pain are very sharp, stabbing like this. These pain are dull, diffuse, or the burning pain. They are diffuse in manner. We can't determine where is it, but we can say like this in this region, but we can't determine the where is it. and these A delta fibers are also responsible for the transmitter of a special type of neurotransmitter in these receptors are working. That one is glutamate, and glutamate is a stimulatory neurotransmitter, we can say, in the nervous system. Glutamate, aspartate, these all are the stimulatory neurotransmitter. GABA, glycine, these are the inhibitory neurotransmitter. So C fibers having a special type of substance acting as a neurotransmitter, that one is substance P. Now you tell me, okay, the A delta fibers are their neurotransmitter is glutamate and C delta fibers is substance P. So how these impulses are transmitted from our first order neuron to the spinal cord and later on they are moving upward in our brain. So which are the tracks are working here, because in the spinal cord, you know, the fibers are moving up and they're reaching to the brain. These fibers are called as tracks, and there's a collection of axons, they're moving upward is called as tracks, and these are moving upwards, that's why they're called ascending tracks. These ascending tracks having several names. When they carry some pain receptors, when these fibers are carry pain receptors from our spinal cord to the brain, these fibers are called as, what the fibers carry from the pain receptors only, they are called as spinothalamic tract. Basically there are two types, paleo and neo. Paleo one is new, they are evolved according to our lifespan, they are the as the time passes they evolving and they forming the new, so it will be the highly advanced, that's why they are called as, because they carry the impulses very fast and the stabbing pain, the sharp pickles, that's why they are called as the neo spinothalamic tract, because it's new during the evolution. And in the paleo spinothalamic tract is very slow, or they are evolved in early stage of our life in the past of our ancestral characteristics. So they are coming from the evolution, not from here. So these tracks are oldest one. What are the C fibers are unmyelinated, because they are situated in our older parents, they are coming from them. That's why they are the paleo spinothalamic tract. Spino means spinothalamic means they are reaching to the thalamus. That's why from the spinal cord they are moving towards the thalamus, they are the ascending tract, because they are moving upward, spinal cord to thalamus. The spinothalamic tract, it is simple. Paleo, they are the oldest one. Neo means new. So they are, according to evolution, they are the new. Neo spinothalamic tract. So they are moving upward. So these are the two tracks. Now you told me, when the patient is having sharp pain or the pricking pain or the stabbing pain, which type of track is activated here? Paleo or neo? Of course neo, because it is sharp pain, it is fast pain, it is A delta fibers pain. They are moving upward through which neurotransmitter is released during this transmission of impulses? Glutamate, of course. Substance P is released when the impulses transmission is happened, stabbing, diffuse or the sharp pain. Of course in the diffuse pain or the dull pain. What tracks is involved in them? Paleo-spinothalamic tract. Now we are going to the pain perception. Pain perception is basically here we can see the pain is increase in the perception is called as, when the pain is increased very higher amount, that is called a hyperalgesia, means higher pain perception. And the no pain perception, no means algesia, we can say analgesia. Algesia is the term for the pain, and means absent, that is the analgesia means absence of pain, we can't perceive the pain is not perceived by the person. Suppose that there is any spinal cord fracture happened in the person in the lumbar region, so you can't feel in the lower limbs, so the patient is having paraplegia, both the lower limbs are not working. It means what happened to that patient, in the paraplegic patient, they can't feel any pain, they can't feel anything in his leg. In the paraplegic patient, the lower limbs are not working. It means both the legs are not working. When there is any hot rod, you can take it and put on his leg, no any senses is happening, or no any senses can be felt by that patient, because there is no any perception, no any impulses transmission from the leg to the spinal cord is happening. Sensory impulses are totally dead here. Now hyperalgesia, what is meant? The high perception. The perception of pain is higher, increase the pain perception. True. They are also called as dolor. Dolor means pain. Now you can see characteristic feature of the inflammation. The patient is having any inflammation happen, it leads to the pain, you know now. And the chemical producing the pain is called as algogens. What are the chemicals in the any patient in patient's body which producing the pain in body? Suppose that there is any wound or any trauma leads to the pain in the any specific region. What are the chemical mediators or the chemicals in that area is secreting is called as algogens. And these algogens are the several importance we are going to see here. Some important allogens. We can see histamine is a allogens type, or the prostaglandin is also a type of allogens. Bradykinin, serotonin, substance P. These all are the types of allogens. These all are the pain percepting allogens. So they are going to stimulate the free nerve endings and increase in the firing of pain perception, and the patient can feel pain. The most potent, which one is the most potent pain perception or the most potent allogens is the bradykinin. This is the most important question here. You understand why I'm going to tell you this is the most important. We are discussing pharmacology or the different sections. The bradykinin is the main regulatory activity of the allogens or the pain perception in that area. Analgesia, you know now, the absence of pain perception. The patient is having most potent, we can see analgesia. There is a most potent analgesic are the morphine drugs, pain relieving drug. Analgesic drugs are the given to the patient is having the any pain relieving drugs. They acting as a pain relieving drugs, analgesics. So they are the relieving the pain and responses to the human body. When the patient human body is having any pain, they are going to be response. Suppose that in our body the morphine is not available. Morphine is we can take from outside. It is not formed inside our body, but inside our body something is formed like the morphine. Something is formed that is called as analgesics, which preventing the stress activity, which preventing the different types of pain inside our body. So what are the chemicals which are produced by the body is that is same activity like the morphine in our body. These are the three in number you can see here, which is produced by the body. That is, the first one is endorphins, enkephalins and dynorphins. These are the three chemicals which are produced by our body that can be acting as a pain relieving activity. They are acting as a pain relieving substance, and these are called as endogenous analgesic system, or we can say endogenous analgesic, because they are produced inside our body. Why the substances are called as exogenous analgesics are the morphine. Basically they are taken from the outside, they are taken outside from body, and what is present inside our body same as the morphine. We can tell the endogenous morphine are enkephalins, endorphins or dynorphins. These all are the endogenous because they are producing inside our body, and they are the, we can see here next point, the endogenous opioids produced by the periaqueductal gray matter. Periaqueductal gray matter is basically the gray matter. Gray matter, it means you know now that the collection of cell body in the central nervous system, and the collection of white matter is, we can tell like this, the white matter is the collection of axon part in our central nervous system is the white matter, and gray matter is the collection of cell body in the central nervous system. So this gray matter in the midbrain region, basically in the midbrain region around the cerebral aqueduct or the periaqueductal region, these endogenous substances or these endogenous opioids are gets produced in the midbrain region. In the midbrain region we are also going to discuss about the two colliculus, superior and inferior. Superior one is regulating our visual system, inferior one is regulating our hearing system. Superior colliculi, inferior colliculi. There is also a special type of nuclei is present in the midbrain. Red nuclei or the different types of nuclei is situated, but for now we are going to discuss only periaqueductal gray matter. They are present where? In the midbrain. They are producing what? Endogenous opioids. What are the endogenous opioids? Dynorphins, endorphins, we can see here, endorphins, enkephalins and dynorphins. Next one we can see a small painful stimulus is like the needles can be touch in our patient can stimulate the PAG. When any patient body we can prick a needle, then it leads to a stimulate, somehow there is a secretion is produced or the production of PAG, that is periaqueducal gray matter is happening, and they causes endogenous opioids release. Endogenous opioids will be released from the periaqueducal gray matter of the midbrain. So this is the treatment. This is the main way of the treatment in the patient is having a special type of medical field. You know now in the China or the different countries they use the acupuncture. There is a pin is taken and they are pricking in our hands in the different location. What is the acupuncture concept of the treatment? the whole body presentation, same as in our brain or in our cerebellum, there is a vermix area or the paravermal area where the whole body representation are present, or in the cerebral cortex same, the whole body representation is present. Same as in the acupuncture technique, the whole body represented in our hand or the palmar surface or the plantar surface of our leg. So these surfaces having different regions located the different parts of our body, and where we get the pricking the pin, that specific region will be stimulated, and the secreting these endogenous opioids will be released in that area and going to that area. It's a thinking of the acupuncture, so I don't know about it. It's basically about the acupuncture technique, and we don't discuss in this medicine. It will be the different field of our medical medicine, so we are not going to discuss here. A stress induced analgesic here. A stress induced analgesic is the basically released when the patient is having some stresses, so there is a lack of pain perception in that patient, and during the stressful event, when any patient is feel a stress condition, there is a pain perception will be reduced or the pain perception will be decreased, so the endogenous cannabinoid system is activated. When the patient in the any pain perception or the pain substance will be released, that is called as the endogenous opioid system. We can say endogenous analgesic or the opioid system. But when the patient is having a stressful condition, there they are called as cannabinoid system is activated, and there is a release a special type of substance that is called as anandamide. Anandamide. It is also secreted by the periodical gray matter. It is also produced by the periodical gray matter of the midbrain, and where the midbrain is located in the brainstem. Hope you know about it. Don't know? Go and watch the video about neuroanatomy. Next, transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation, TENS. It is a special type of technique nowadays. We can see here. This is the mechanism for stimulation of A beta fibers. Already told you there is a several classification of the fibers. We discuss in the next topic what are the classification, how they are classified. First, for now we have to memorize the TENS is the technique that is transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation is for the touch receptors. They inhibit the A delta and C fibers for the pain. So nothing that much important is here. This concept is based upon the gate control theory. They are proposed by the Majek and Wall. We discuss later what is the gate control theory. Next one, the gate control theory is basic for the TENS and massage therapy. When any patient is having, we are doing massage and the patient feel relief, and the patient we can also say the patient is having, we are going to give transcutaneous electrical stimulation. This is the technique through which the patient feel also relief. So these are the two techniques through which the patient is having controlled by the gate control theory. Basically there is a transmission of impulses is occurred through it. When the patient doing massages, it will feel relief. Due to the somehow the patient feel relief is what is the main mechanism behind it. It depends on the gate control theory. We discuss in the next topic, but for now we have to memorize it. The thermoreceptors is the third main topic of the general sensation, that is regulated with the temperature. They detect the temperature two types, cold and warm temperature. The cold temperature is regulated by the A delta or C fibers. Already when the patient feel cold, it means there is a shivering, and the impulses transmission from the cold, they are moving through the A delta and C fibers. A delta is more faster, C fiber is slower because they are the unmyelinated, you know. They are the 10 times more in number. The A delta and C fibers are more in number. They detect the temperature up to 10 to 24 degrees. When the patient surrounding temperature will be 10 to 24 degrees Celsius, it can be detected by the cold sensitive temperature receptors, that is thermoreceptors, and they are the special type of channels are regulating this activity, that is called as TRPM channels, that is transient receptor potential menthol receptors are activated in this patient, and these receptors are activating or sensing the temperature. What are the surrounding temperature is it? When the temperature is in between 10 to 24 degrees Celsius, it can be sensed by these receptors. And when the temperature is less than 5 degrees Celsius, the patient feel cold pain. In the cold, the patient feel pain. Sometimes it happens when the patient is any person is moving in the cold climatic condition or the cold climatic countries. It will happen when the temperature is moving minus. It will the patient feel cold. First feel cold, and after some time he feels pain also. With the cold he feels pain. So when the temperature is more than 45 degree, there is a warm pain. Same as in the when the patient is living in the warm climatic condition, the patient first feel the sweating, and then after that the patient feel warm, and sometimes after the patient feel burning sensation on the area or the warming sensation in that area. That's why that the temperature is less than 5 is cold pain, more than 45 is warm pain. In the warm condition, C fibers are activated. They detecting the temperature up to 30 to 45 degrees Celsius, and there is a special type of receptor is working here, that is TRV3 receptor. Same transient receptors potential menthol, and here is the varinoid. V stands for varinoid capsin receptors. They activates the channels, and TRV3 is also normally detecting the temperature, the peak firing at 37 degree temperature. This is normal condition about it. Now we are going to see the classification of receptors. The classification of receptors on the basis of their adaptation, how these receptors are going to be adapt, or the receptor adaptation is happened. There are basically two types of receptor. On the basis of their adaptation, we can see rapidly adapting receptors, RAR, or the slow adapting receptors, that is SAR, RAR or SAR, RAR or SAR. We can see the rapidly adapting receptors are acting as a very fast, and they are called as phagic receptors, and slow adapting receptors are called as tonic receptors. These receptors, tonic receptors, are the, suppose that these receptors are once activated, they gets closed very slowly. So these receptors are fire more, and they fire for a long time. That is the tonic receptors, they fire for a long time. And in the phagic receptors, they are opening their channel and then closing. They are firing for a very short time. So we can see they adapt very quickly in the given stimuli, because they are firing and closing very fastly. And these fibers are going to tonic, or they always open, because they fire very slowly. Their stimuli will be given and then opening or closing very slowly. They will be fire most of the time. That's why they are the tonic. And what are the receptors which are acting as a rapidly? They are very fast receptor. They are acting and then closing their activity or their stimuli. That is Meissner's and Pacinian corpuscles are the rapidly acting receptors, and the slow acting receptors will be the Merkel's, Raffinage, and free and nerve endings. So you have to memorize it. What are the slow adapting receptors, and what are the rapidly adapting receptors? What does it mean phagic receptor? What does it mean tonic receptor? Tonic means the receptors are fires, and their channels will be opening for a long time. When these receptors are fired for a long time, it will happen, of course, very slowly. This transmission of its impulses will be very slow. In the fast adapting receptor, they are working very fast, so their impulses will be very fast transmitted, and they are fastly acting. So they are called as phagic transmission. We can see in this picture, here is the Meissner's corpuscles. They are superficial or deep. They are, of course, superficial. Merkel cells, they are superficial. And Pacinian corpuscles, they are located in the deep. These are in the deep region. These are in the superficial region. So this is all about the receptors, of the general receptors. In next section, we are going to discuss about the different parts. For now, it's all. See you in next video about the general and nervous physiology. Thank you.